Before we begin today's story, let us know in the comment section what time and part of the world you are listening from. Also, if you enjoy today's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin. The Ashworth Manor glowed like a jewel against the velvet night sky, its windows casting golden light across manicured gardens. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, their light catching on hundreds of ornate masks worn by New York's elite. The annual Masquerade Gala, hosted by Richard Ashworth, the Coleman family's oldest business rival, was the social event of the season. James Coleman adjusted his black velvet mask, its intricate silver filigree catching the light. At 24, he carried the weight of legacy on his shoulders like a cross. The Coleman name opened doors but also imprisoned him in expectations. Tonight, he sought escape in crystal flutes of champagne, each sip promising temporary relief from the suffocating reality of his predetermined future. His father's words from that morning still rang in his ears. "It's time you took your place, James. The empire won't run itself." The weight of those words had driven him here, to enemy territory, where nobody would expect the Coleman heir to venture. The mask granted him blessed anonymity, allowing him to shed the persona of James Coleman, future CEO, and simply exist as a nameless face in the crowd. Across the ballroom, Kelly Smith's heart thundered against her ribs. She clutched her borrowed mask, a delicate creation of copper and bronze that her friend Sarah had smuggled to her, along with a stolen invitation. "Come on," Sarah had pleaded earlier that evening, her waitress uniform pristine. "Live a little. When else will you get to see how the other half lives?" Kelly smoothed down her vintage emerald dress, a lucky find from a consignment shop, and tried to blend into the shadows. As an architecture student surviving on scholarships and instant noodles, she felt like an imposter. Yet she couldn't help but marvel at the manor's structural beauty. Her trained eye traced the sweeping archways, the perfect symmetry of the Georgian architecture, the subtle interplay of light and shadow. "Beautiful, isn't it?" A deep voice startled her from her architectural reverie. Kelly turned to find a tall figure in a black velvet mask studying her. Something in his stance suggested both authority and uncertainty, a contradiction that intrigued her immediately. "The architecture?" she asked, grateful her mask hid her blush. "Yes, it's extraordinary." "I meant you," he said softly, then smiled at her surprised laugh. "Though the architecture is impressive too, would you care to dance?" Perhaps it was the champagne, or the magic of anonymity, or simply destiny playing its hand, but Kelly found herself nodding. His hand was warm as it took hers, leading her onto the dance floor where other masked couples swayed to the orchestra's melodies. "You study architecture," he noted as they danced, his observation causing her to tilt her head curiously. "How did you know?" "The way you've been analyzing every corner of this room. Your eyes don't miss a detail." They talked as they danced, about dreams, fears, the weight of expectations. She told him about her passion for sustainable design, her desire to create spaces that would change lives. He spoke of feeling trapped by destiny, of wanting to forge his own path. Neither shared names or specific details, yet somehow revealed more truth than they had to anyone else. One dance became 2, then 3. They escaped to the garden, where moonlight painted everything in silver. The night air was cool, but Kelly felt warm, especially when he draped his jacket over her shoulders. They found a secluded bench near a fountain, their conversation flowing as freely as the water. "Sometimes," he confessed, his fingers intertwined with hers, "I wonder if there's more to life than following predetermined paths." Kelly squeezed his hand. "Maybe that's what tonight is about, choosing our own path, even if just for a few hours." Their first kiss tasted of champagne and possibility. The second felt like coming home. By the third, they had forgotten about masks, about social barriers, about everything except the electric connection between them. They ended up in his hotel suite, a decision that should have felt reckless but somehow felt right. In the intimate darkness, masks finally removed, they explored each other with tender curiosity. Yet in the soft lighting and the haze of emotion and champagne, features remained shadowed, names remained unspoken, adding to the night's enchantment. When Kelly awoke the next morning, sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, the bed beside her was empty. His jacket, his mask, all traces of him were gone. Only the lingering scent of his cologne on the pillows proved it hadn't been a dream. She found a note on the bedside table. "Thank you for making me feel real. I'm sorry I can't stay." For weeks afterward, Kelly tried to find him. But how do you search for someone whose face you never clearly saw, whose name you never knew? She scoured society pages, asked discreet questions, but in a city of millions, finding one masked stranger proved impossible. Then, 6 weeks after the gala, sitting in a clinic waiting room, Kelly received news that would change everything. The pregnancy test was positive. Her hand trembled as she touched her stomach, remembering the mysterious stranger's sad smile, his gentle touch, his quiet confessions. She would have a piece of him after all. A reminder of one magical night when two lost souls found each other behind masks, creating something real and lasting in the process. As she left the clinic, Kelly made a silent promise to her unborn child. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Little did she know that fate wasn't finished with their story. It was merely setting the stage for a reunion 11 years in the making. 11 years had transformed Kelly Smith from an uncertain architecture student into one of New York City's most respected architects. Her firm, Smith Design Associates, occupied the 20th floor of a sleek Manhattan high-rise, a far cry from the cramped studio apartment where she'd once sketched dreams while nursing a newborn. On this particular morning, Kelly stood at her office window, watching the city buzz below. At 34, she carried herself with quiet confidence, her success hard-won through talent, determination, and countless nights working after putting Chloe to bed. Her dark hair was swept into a professional updo, her tailored charcoal suit, a armor of sorts, though her warm brown eyes still held the same dreamy quality they had 11 years ago. "Mom," Chloe's voice preceded her into the office, bringing with it the whirlwind energy that always accompanied her daughter. Kelly turned to find her 10-year-old clutching a sketchbook, hazel eyes bright with excitement. "Look what I designed." Kelly's heart squeezed, as it always did, at those hazel eyes, so like her father's, though Chloe would never know it. The girl held up a detailed sketch of a treehouse, complete with solar panels and a rainwater collection system. "Sustainable design," Chloe explained proudly, "like you always talk about." Kelly pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and graphite pencils. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. You're getting better every day." It hadn't been easy, raising Chloe alone. There had been moments of doubt, of loneliness, of wondering about the masked stranger who'd given her the greatest gift of her life. But Kelly had built them a good life, structured, stable, filled with love and purpose. Their modern apartment in Brooklyn was their sanctuary, their weekend traditions of pancake breakfasts and museum visits their anchor. Mrs. Rodriguez had to leave early. Chloe explained her presence at the office. She said her grandson's running a fever. Kelly checked her watch, mentally rearranging her schedule. This was motherhood, constant adaptation, perpetual balancing. "Well, how about you set up at your special desk? I have one more meeting, then we can grab dinner." Across town, in the imposing Coleman Enterprises headquarters, James Coleman stood in his penthouse office, 35 years old and feeling every bit his age. The view from the 60th floor was spectacular, but lately it felt more like a golden cage than a symbol of success. The divorce papers had been finalized 3 months ago, ending his 7-year marriage to Beverly Stanton. It had been a union of convenience, orchestrated by their families, maintained by shared social obligations. Beverly had been clear from the start. She wanted the Coleman name, not a family. When she'd suggested surrogacy with the same tone she used to discuss redecorating their Hamptons house, James had finally acknowledged what he'd known for years. Their marriage was as hollow as the society parties they attended. Running his fingers through his dark hair, now touched with distinguished silver at the temples, James reviewed the quarterly reports without really seeing them. He'd proven himself a capable CEO, even surpassing his father's expectations. Coleman Enterprises had expanded globally under his leadership, their real estate portfolio doubling in value. Yet success tasted like ashes lately. "Mr. Coleman," his assistant's voice crackled over the intercom, "your mother's on line 1. James suppressed a sigh. Since the divorce, his mother's calls had increased, each one carrying subtle hints about suitable women from their social circle. She meant well, but she didn't understand. At 35, James wasn't interested in another society marriage. The emptiness in his life couldn't be filled with business deals or arranged relationships. Sometimes, in quiet moments, he found himself thinking about that night 11 years ago, the masked ball, the mysterious woman who'd seen past his facade. She'd been real in a way no one in his world ever was. He'd left before dawn, convinced he was protecting both of them from the complications his name would bring. Now, older and perhaps wiser, he wondered if he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Meanwhile, in Kelly's office, Chloe had settled at the small desk her mother kept for her, colored pencils arranged with precise care. At 10, she was a study in contradictions, practical like Kelly in her organization, yet dreamy in her creative pursuits. She had her mother's determination and someone else's quick wit, though Kelly never spoke about where that came from. Chloe drew with focused intensity, her hazel eyes narrowed in concentration. She was working on a series of building designs for her future portfolio, a term she'd picked up from overhearing her mother's business calls. Around her neck hung a copper pendant shaped like a mask, a gift Kelly had given her on her 10th birthday. She didn't know its significance, but she loved it all the same. "Hey, Mom," Chloe called out, not looking up from her drawing. "Do you ever think about my dad?" Kelly's hands stilled on her keyboard. These questions came more frequently now, as Chloe grew older and more aware of the gap in her family story. "Sometimes," she answered honestly. "He gave me you, so how could I not? Was he an architect too? Is that why I love drawing buildings?" Kelly smiled softly, remembering conversations about structure and design in a moonlit garden. "I don't know, sweetheart, but your talent is all your own." As the sun set over Manhattan, casting long shadows through both their offices, James and Kelly went about their separate lives, unaware that fate was about to intervene once again. In one hand, James held the portfolio for the Westmore Estate restoration project, a historic building in need of revival. Among the firms bidding for the contract was Smith Design Associates, recommended for their innovative approach to historical preservation. And in Brooklyn, Kelly reviewed the same proposal with Chloe peering over her shoulder, neither knowing that the masked stranger from 11 years ago was about to step back into their lives, this time without a mask, but with just as much potential to change everything. The universe, it seemed, had a poetic sense of timing. For 11 years, it had kept them apart, letting them grow, learn, and build separate lives. Now, perhaps, they were finally ready for their paths to cross again, not as masked strangers in the night, but as the people they'd become, with a precious bridge between them in the form of a bright-eyed girl who loved to draw buildings and ask questions that stirred the soul. Sorry to cut in, but I noticed 90% of our viewers watch our stories till the end, but eventually forget to subscribe. Please, if you're enjoying our story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps our stories get recommended to more hearts across the globe. Thank you. Now, back to our story. The Westmore Estate stood like a sleeping giant on the outskirts of the city, its weathered stone facade holding decades of stories within its walls. When Kelly first visited the site, portfolio tucked under her arm, she felt an immediate connection to the building's quiet dignity. What she didn't expect was the same sensation upon meeting the client. James Coleman waited on the grand staircase, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the estate's faded grandeur. Something flickered in his eyes when they shook hands, a recognition neither could place. Kelly attributed the flutter in her stomach to professional nerves, while James dismissed his racing pulse as simple appreciation for her obvious competence. "Your portfolio impressed me," he said, leading her through rooms where sunlight filtered through dusty windows. "Especially your approach to maintaining historical integrity while incorporating modern sustainability." "The past and present don't have to be at war," Kelly responded, her hand trailing along a marble banister. "Sometimes they can dance together quite beautifully." Their first meeting stretched from the scheduled hour into 3, as they discovered a shared vision for the estate's restoration. Kelly found herself drawn to his thoughtful questions and genuine interest in preservation. James was captivated by her passionate expertise and the gentle strength she exuded. Over the following weeks, their professional relationship developed into an easy partnership. Site visits became opportunities for lengthy discussions that often strayed beyond architecture. They found themselves sharing coffee on the estate's terrace, talking about everything from childhood memories to future dreams. "There's something about you," James admitted one afternoon, watching her sketch preliminary designs. "It's like déjà vu, but I can't quite place it." Kelly felt it too, a familiarity that haunted her, especially in quiet moments when she caught him staring out windows with the same melancholy she remembered from a masked stranger long ago. But that was impossible. Life wasn't a fairy tale, and she had Chloe to think about. The universe, however, had its own plans. It happened on a rainy Tuesday when Kelly's regular sitter called in sick. With a crucial site meeting scheduled, she had no choice but to bring Chloe along. The girl bounced into the estate, her energy brightening the somber halls. "This place is amazing," Chloe exclaimed, her sketchbook already out. "Mom, can I explore while you work?" Before Kelly could respond, James appeared in the doorway. Time seemed to stop as he and Chloe looked at each other for the first time. Kelly's heart pounded as she watched something indefinable pass between them, a recognition neither could understand. "You must be Chloe," James said softly, kneeling to her level. "Your mother talks about you all the time. Are you Mr. Coleman? Mom says you're helping save this beautiful old house." Chloe's hazel eyes, his eyes, though he didn't know it, sparkled with curiosity. "Do you think it has secret passages?" James laughed, a sound that made Kelly's chest tighten. "Why don't we find out? I have some old blueprints that might give us some clues." What was meant to be a brief introduction turned into an afternoon of exploration. James and Chloe pored over architectural drawings, theorized about hidden doorways, and discussed the merits of various restoration approaches. Kelly watched in wonder as her normally reserved daughter opened up to this virtual stranger, and as the supposedly ruthless CEO transformed into an enthusiastic adventure companion. From that day forward, Chloe began asking to visit the site more often. James always made time for her, answering her endless questions with patience and genuine interest. He started keeping art supplies in his office for her visits, and soon the walls of his temporary project office were adorned with her sketches. "She's remarkable," James told Kelly one evening as they watched Chloe drawing in the fading light. "You've done an amazing job raising her." Kelly felt tears threatening. "Sometimes I wonder if it's enough, if she needs more than just me." James touched her hand gently. "From what I see, you're everything she needs, but accepting help doesn't make you less of a mother." Their relationship shifted after that conversation. Professional boundaries began to blur. Site meetings evolved into dinner discussions about the project, which somehow turned into sharing personal stories over dessert. James found himself opening up about his failed marriage, while Kelly shared the challenges of single motherhood. "I always wanted children," he confessed one night, "but Beverly, she saw them as an inconvenience. Now I watch you with Chloe, and I realize what I've been missing." Kelly's heart ached for him, even as she guarded her own. She couldn't deny the growing attraction between them, the way her skin tingled when their hands brushed over blueprints, how his smile made her feel 23 again. But she had Chloe to consider, and a secret that grew heavier with each passing day. The project progressed, and with it, their connection deepened. James began joining them for weekend brunches, helping Chloe with her art projects, and becoming a steady presence in their lives. Kelly watched as her daughter bloomed under his attention, showing him her designs with the same enthusiasm she usually reserved for her mother. "He feels safe," Chloe declared one night as Kelly tucked her into bed. "Like he belongs with us." Kelly kissed her daughter's forehead, fighting back emotions she couldn't name. The more time they spent together, the harder it became to ignore the similarities between James and Chloe. The way they both furrowed their brows when concentrating, their shared infectious laugh, the identical gesture of running fingers through their hair when thinking deeply. But how could she tell him? How could she risk destroying this delicate balance they'd created? The Westmore Estate project would end eventually, and with it, perhaps, this unexpected connection they'd formed. Yet every time James looked at her with those familiar hazel eyes, the same ones she saw every morning in her daughter's face, Kelly felt the truth pushing against her lips, begging to be spoken. The masks they'd worn 11 years ago had long since fallen away, but new ones had taken their place. Client and architect, friend and friend, almost, father and secret keeper. As autumn turned the estate's grounds to gold, Kelly realized that some truths couldn't stay hidden forever. The past had a way of emerging, like the estate's original features they kept discovering beneath years of renovations. Soon, she would have to decide whether to risk everything by revealing their shared history, or continue living with the weight of her secret. But for now, she watched as James and Chloe sat on the estate steps, heads bent together over her sketchbook, looking for all the world like father and daughter, which, unbeknownst to them, they were. The annual Heritage Preservation Gala arrived with October's crisp air, transforming the newly restored Westmore Estate into a scene from a dream. Crystal chandeliers, restored to their original glory, cast dancing light across polished floors. Like 11 years ago, masks adorned every face, but this time, Kelly wore hers with reluctance. "You can't skip your own project celebration," James had insisted weeks earlier, his eyes twinkling. "Besides, I've never seen you at a masked ball." If only he knew. Kelly stood before her mirror now, fingers trembling as she secured the copper-hued mask. The design echoed the one she'd given Chloe, though this one was adorned with delicate architectural elements, a gift from James that had arrived that morning with a note. For the woman who rebuilds more than just buildings. Chloe, staying with her grandmother for the evening, had helped her choose the dress, a deep emerald gown that reminded Kelly too much of another night, another dance, another version of herself. "You look like a princess, Mom," Chloe had declared. "Mr. Coleman won't be able to take his eyes off you." She was right. When Kelly entered the ballroom, James froze mid-conversation. He wore a midnight black mask that made her heart stutter, so similar to the one from that night, yet different enough to make her doubt her memories. He crossed the room in long strides, taking her hand as if they were the only people present. "You're stunning," he whispered, leading her to the dance floor. The orchestra played something slow and haunting, and Kelly felt herself falling into a familiar rhythm. "You know," James said as they swayed, "I've always loved masked balls. There's something magical about them. 11 years ago, I attended one that changed my life, though I was too foolish to realize it at the time." Kelly's steps faltered. "What do you mean?" "I met someone. She was extraordinary. We talked about architecture, about dreams. She saw past everything I was trying to hide." His voice grew distant, remembering. "I've never felt so real, before or since. Until..." Kelly's heart thundered against her ribs. "Until I met you and Chloe." He pulled back slightly, studying her through his mask. "Sometimes when I'm with you both, I feel that same authenticity. Isn't it strange?" Kelly couldn't breathe. The room spun slightly, memories overlapping with present reality. "This song," she managed. "It was playing that night, wasn't it? At the Ashworth Manor." James stiffened, his hands tightening on her waist. "How did you?" "The garden had a fountain," she continued, voice barely a whisper. "You gave me your jacket. We talked about breaking free from predetermined paths." They had stopped dancing, standing still amid swirling couples. James reached up with trembling fingers, tracing the edge of her mask. "It was you," he breathed. "All this time, it was you." The revelation hung between them, heavy with 11 years of implications. Kelly stepped back, overwhelmed. "James, there's more. That night, it gave me more than memories." Understanding dawned in his eyes, those hazel eyes she saw every morning in her daughter's face. "Chloe," he whispered. She's mine?" Kelly nodded, tears slipping beneath her mask. "I tried to find you. For months I searched, but I was wearing a mask," he finished, his voice rough with emotion. "Oh God, Kelly, all this time, all these months I've spent with her, feeling this inexplicable connection. Those eyes, her eyes, my eyes." They found themselves in the estate's garden, masks removed, the music fading behind them. James paced, running fingers through his hair exactly as Chloe did when processing complex emotions. "Tell me about her," he pleaded. "Tell me everything I missed." And so, under the same moon that had witnessed their first encounter, Kelly shared a decade of memories. Chloe's first steps, her first words, her early fascination with buildings and design. With each story, James's eyes grew brighter with tears and wonder. "She's perfect," he whispered. "You did such an amazing job, Kelly, but I should have been there. I should have." "We both made choices that night." Kelly touched his arm gently. "We were young and maybe not ready for what we'd created, but now I'm ready," James declared firmly. "If you'll let me, if Chloe will have me, I want to be her father, really be her father." The next few days passed in a blur of emotions and careful conversations. They arranged for a paternity test, a formality they both knew was unnecessary. Every time James looked at Chloe now, he saw himself, saw Kelly, saw the perfect blend of their best parts. They decided to tell Chloe together, on a Sunday morning in the estate's sunlit drawing room. She sat between them, confused by their serious faces, her copper mask pendant catching the light. "Sweetheart," Kelly began, "remember how you asked about your father?" Chloe nodded, her hazel eyes, James's eyes, darting between them. Understanding bloomed across her face before they could continue. "It's you, isn't it?" she whispered, looking at James. "That's why you feel so familiar, why you laugh like me, why Mom sometimes looks sad when we're together." James nodded, tears streaming freely now. "I didn't know," he managed. "But I've loved you since the moment I met you, even before I understood why." Chloe launched herself into his arms, 11 years of wondering transforming into a single, perfect moment of connection. Kelly watched through her own tears as father and daughter held each other, masks finally stripped away, truth shining brighter than any chandelier's light. "Can I call you Dad?" Chloe asked, her voice muffled against his chest. James's sob was half laugh, pure joy. "Nothing would make me happier." As Kelly joined their embrace, she marveled at destiny's patient choreography. 11 years ago, masks had brought them together only to tear them apart. Now masks had reunited them, stronger and readier for the love they'd created on that long-ago night. The autumn leaves danced outside the Westmore Estate's windows as James, Kelly, and Chloe settled into their new reality. Like the careful restoration of the historic building, they built their relationships one precious moment at a time, mindful of the delicate balance between past and future. James threw himself into fatherhood with the same intensity he brought to his business dealings, but with a tenderness that made Kelly's heart ache. He showed up for morning school runs, attended every art class showcase, and established a weekly father-daughter architecture tour where they explored the city's buildings together. Chloe blossomed under his attention, her already bright personality radiating even more joy. "Did you know?" Chloe announced one evening during family dinner, a phrase that still made Kelly's chest tight with happiness, "that Dad can draw too? He helped me design a whole city today." James caught Kelly's eye across the table, his smile soft. "Though not nearly as well as you two. I'm learning from the best." These moments, simple, domestic, profound, filled their days. James learned the rhythm of their life and found his place within it. He memorized Chloe's favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes with strawberries, her bedtime routine, 2 stories minimum, plus a discussion about the day's architectural discoveries, and all the little details that made her uniquely herself. Kelly watched their relationship grow, careful to give them space to bond while maintaining her own special connection with her daughter. But something else was growing too, something between her and James that went beyond co-parenting or their shared past. It happened gradually, in quiet moments when Chloe was asleep or busy with homework. They would find themselves lingering over coffee at the estate's kitchen, discussing renovation details that somehow turned into deeper conversations about life, love, and second chances. "I never stopped thinking about that night," James confessed one evening as they walked the estate's grounds. "I just didn't know I was missing so much more than a memory." Kelly turned to face him, moonlight silvering his features. "I used to imagine telling you about her. Every milestone, every triumph, every time she smiled your smile. I wished you could see her. I see her now." He stepped closer, his hand finding hers. "And I see you, Kelly, not just as Chloe's mother, not just as the brilliant architect who saved this estate. I see the woman who made me feel real 11 years ago, who built a beautiful life for our daughter, who makes me want to be better every day." Their first kiss as adults, clear-eyed and unmasked, was softer than their passionate encounter years ago, but carried more weight. This time, they knew exactly who they were and what they could lose. This time, they chose each other with full awareness of the consequences. They took their romance slowly, mindful of Chloe's feelings. Family movie nights sometimes ended with gentle goodnight kisses at Kelly's door. Working late at the estate led to intimate conversations over takeout. They dated properly this time. Dinner reservations, theater tickets, walks in Central Park, building new memories to complement the magical one they shared. Chloe, far from being confused by the development, seemed to glow with satisfaction. "I knew it," she declared after catching them holding hands during a weekend brunch. "You look at Mom the way the princes look at princesses in my books."